Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. This is huge. I've been dying to talk about this. Some new pictures just released for Skeleton Crew from Empire magazine, and no one is talking about what is probably the biggest reveal for the entire show so far. The series drops on December 3rd. We've speculated about connections to the Ahsoka show, to the Mandalorian, and some new photos have some massive implications. You're gonna love this one, I promise. Before we dive into it though guys, if you've not done so already, please be sure to hit the big subscribe button down below, and why not hit the bell to be alerted every time that I post a new video. But no more jibber jabber, let's dive straight into it. We have some new photos, and the first one that we have to break down is this. Jude Law's character Jordan Narwood with Neil in a hood. Really adorable, but they've also confirmed he is not an Ortolan. They didn't reveal too much in terms of the name of his species. He's just described as elephantine. Looks like a little elephant. Now take a look at the inscriptions on the wall next to Jod. This is a temple, not a Jedi temple, something relating to the Sith. The Dathomiri like the temple in Ahsoka episode 1, or the Zepho. The language should be familiar to all Ahsoka fans. It's Ur-Kitat. Ur-Kitat is commonly known as Sith, or the Old Sith tongue, the runic language of the traditional Sith, spoken by members of the Sith Order and the Sith Eternal from the Rise of Skywalker. But most importantly, we also see it on Peridea in Ahsoka Season 1. In fact, in a couple of frames behind Thrawn, you might have remembered some of the symbols. And this is what I've been saying for months. There is more to the show than meets the eye. Jon Watts and by extension Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, who also worked on this show, are using Skeleton Crew to tie the Mandoverse together and give us some answers to the Ahsoka show, indirectly. What Jod and the kids are going to come across will explain some of those big question marks. Here's a theory: they might allude to what's calling to Baylan, if that power is tied to the ancient Sith. While it might not be direct, they might stumble into ruins that allude to the dark side powers that relate to Peridea and Mortis. Are we actually going to Peridea? Maybe not. One of the new planets that we originally thought might be, isn't. According to the new article by Empire magazine, it's called Lanupa. But here's the most interesting thing about the way Skeleton Crew is going to handle this. They're not going to flat out give us explicit answers. It's going to be background Easter eggs, subtle hints, allusions, maybe some translations. Fans are going to have to connect the dots, but it's all building to what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau want to do in the movies. Not just The Mandalorian and Grogu, because remember Dave himself has a movie after Ahsoka Season 2, and Skeleton Crew is part of those plans. Don't underestimate what this story can give us. The language Ur-Kitat was originally spoken by the ancient Sith. It was also commonly used to decorate temples like this. The writing was also in the tomb of Darth Bane, primarily used in Sith rituals. Emperor Palpatine himself spoke it, and taught it to Darth Vader. We learnt this in Lords of the Sith. If you remember episode 9, the language later came to be etched into a dagger containing the whereabouts of Palpatine's Wayfinder, which led to Exegol. The appearance of the language in Skeleton Crew, in my opinion, is no accident. It could just be an Easter egg, but I highly doubt it. On to the second photo. This one is pretty straightforward and shows us one of the characters gaining a lot of popularity on social media. Neil sitting in his classroom near the start of the show, bored and waiting for the lesson to end. I think we've all been there. But this has sparked some interesting questions about other times we've seen schools in Star Wars media, and the one that should immediately come to mind, especially in the context of the Mandoverse, is The Mandalorian Season 2 Chapter 12 The Siege. Grogu was made to sit in a classroom on Nevarro, while his dad Din Djarin, with Cara Dune, Greef Karga and the Mithril, infiltrated the Imperial Remnant's cloning facility. While the classroom in Mando is on a completely different planet to the one in Skeleton Crew, the episode of The Mandalorian Season 2 is the first and only time the term Skeleton Crew was used on screen. It was the way Cara Dune described the small group of remnants in charge of the cloning lab on Nevarro. And the classroom appears again in the third season when Din and Grogu return to the planet, and both sets of kids, those in Mando and Skeleton Crew, have a common enemy, Vane, who didn't realize his favourite place to drink had become a classroom. And speaking of the Nikto pirate, we have a new still of him, looking menacing as always. Really excited for this show. Then we have some other photos where it's just the kids on set, working with Lee Isaac Chung, Jon Watts. Here we have a photo of Jude Law and Bryce Dallas Howard. Jude Law and David Lowery, and here we have a glimpse of the kids on their speeders, on their home planets before they go on their adventure with the Father of Whim. We're in for a treat, guys, and like I said, this show is going to be way more epic than we're giving it credit for. And staying on the subject of the Mandoverse, the Book of Boba Fett once again has been snubbed. Star Wars took to social media to announce something huge. Just like they announced for the first 2 seasons, the 3rd season of The Mandalorian and Ahsoka Season 1 are getting Steelbook 4K releases, physical media. But what fans can't get their heads around is why is the Book of Boba Fett not even on Disney's radar for a physical release? They've marketed The Mandalorian Season 3 DVD as the reunion of Din and Grogu. It wasn't. That was in the Book of Boba Fett. Are they going to throw in a recap for the physical release? Because otherwise those who went from Season 2 straight to Season 3 and didn't know they had to watch the Book of Boba Fett, that's going to cause quite some confusion. And in case you think, well, every Mando fan obviously knows about the Book of Boba Fett, trust me guys, I know people in my real life who are much more casual than I am about Star Wars. I live and breathe it, they don't. They're more casual, they've seen Mando, and they didn't know about the Book of Boba Fett. And I see fans on social media all the time who are just discovering these shows and wanted to know the reason 1 minute Grogu is going off with Luke, and the next, he's back with his dad. It's understandable why they'd have this confusion. And you know, say what you will about Book of Boba Fett, I think it definitely has its moments, and this meme sums it up. I'm a big fan of American Dad, and in this meme you have Stan Smith as Book of Boba Fett, and Brian from Family Guy as the shows that got physical releases. And Disney says, do I know you? And Book of Boba Fett is like, stop pretending I don't exist. Literally. And this isn't the first time Disney have done this. In a couple of reference guides, they will attribute some of the events from Book of Boba Fett to generic The Mandalorian. Yes, they're concurrent, they both take place during the New Republic. There is overlap with the characters, Cobb Vanth, Boba Fett, Din, Grogu, Ahsoka, Luke. However, Book of Boba Fett is a show in its own right. It doesn't need to be grouped. It deserves a physical release. At least I think so. So yet again, I'm afraid to say, my dear friends, Boba Fett has been snubbed. What's even stranger about this is that Book of Boba Fett didn't even do badly in terms of viewership. It was during a time when Star Wars fans were still riding the hype train of Mando. Yes, there was some disappointment, but fans still tuned in. If I were to make an educated guess, I would predict that Disney probably just doesn't know what to do with him. I'm hoping he appears in The Mandalorian and Grogu, but recent rumours seem to suggest Temuera Morrison may not have been contacted. Ming-Na Wen has also expressed a dismay. It's pretty sad. Share your thoughts on this and everything we spoke about in the comments down below. What do you make of these new photos, this new press release from Empire magazine for Skeleton Crew, and are you guys excited? We're coming up to November in just a few days' time, and that means we're just a month and some change away. Let me know your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, guys, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up. Please subscribe if you're new. Let's get to 140, 150, even 200,000 subs. Let's grow this amazing community. Check me out on social media, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.